Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a feeling that literally every single one of us knows intimately. You know that heavy, sinking sensation in your stomach when you're about to step into the unknown? Yeah, we're talking about fear. It's that universal barrier holding us back from living the lives we truly want, from taking that next big leap in our careers, or even just from being completely honest with the people we love. We've all felt it, and yet so many of us let it dictate our boundaries. But what if fear wasn't a stop sign? What if it was actually a green light?
Right off the bat, I want you to genuinely ask yourself and be really honest here. What are you afraid of? And why? What is the specific fear keeping you stuck in your own life at this exact moment? Is it making a massive career change? Is it finally speaking up in that Monday meeting? Or maybe it's something a little deeper, like the fear of being truly seen by another person. We've all got that one thing we're actively avoiding. Take a look at these. Whether it's public speaking, making major life decisions, intimacy, changing jobs, or aging alone, you'll likely see something here that resonates. We are basically dealing with an epidemic of fear. But hey, here's the comforting part. Looking at these common, surface-level fears actually unites us. It validates that this feeling you have, it's not a unique flaw in your character. It's a completely normal, shared human experience. You are absolutely not alone in this.
To figure out how to conquer this, we're going to unpack some brilliant insights from a foundational piece of work, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. And look, this isn't just about throwing out empty motivational platitudes. This provides a profound psychological framework and actual practical tools to shift our mindset entirely. It's all about moving from a state of total paralysis to a state of absolute power. Okay, let's get right into section 1, the 3 levels of fear, digging to the root cause. We can't solve what we don't understand, right? So let's break this down. So level 1 is what we call the surface stories. These are the external situations we tend to avoid. The things that either just kind of happen to us, like aging or illness, or things that require our action, like going back to school. But if we dig just a little deeper, we hit level 2, ego and inner states. Now, these aren't about specific situations, they're entirely internal. This is that paralyzing fear of rejection, the fear of failure, or of losing your image. And level 2 actually explains why fear bleeds into every single part of your life. Because if you fear rejection, well, that's going to affect your friendships, your romantic relationships, and your job interviews all at the exact same time. But then, we reach the absolute bottom, the real nitty-gritty, level 3. And guys, this is a massive paradigm shift, so let this really sink in. All of those varied fears from level 1 and level 2, they all boil down to just one vulnerable root cause. I can't handle it. That's it. At the absolute core of every single fear is a profound lack of self-trust. This quote is really the emotional anchor of this entire explainer. At the bottom of every one of your fears is simply the fear that you can't handle whatever life may bring you. Just think about it. If you knew with absolute 100% certainty that you could handle anything that came your way, losing a job, facing a tough rejection, making a huge mistake, what would you possibly have to fear? The answer is nothing. The ultimate cure for level 3 fear isn't about trying to control the outside world. It's about building that rock-solid internal belief that no matter what, I'll handle it. Moving on to section 2, 5 truths about fear, breaking the myth. Let's talk about how to actually build that muscle. If we're all being honest with ourselves, you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, but can't you just make it go away? There's this secret passive hope inside all of us that watching an explainer like this or reading a self-help book will miraculously make the fear just vanish before we actually have to do the scary thing. We just want the discomfort to stop. But that leads us right into what Dr. Jeffers calls the when/then trap. We tell ourselves all the time, when I feel a little more confident, then I'll make the call. When I'm no longer afraid, then I'll take the leap. Listen. It is a massive myth that fear ends before you act. The undeniable fact is that fear only ends after you act. Waiting around for the fear to disappear before you take action is literally a mathematical formula for failure. Which brings us to the 5 core truths of fear. Let's run through these quickly. Truth 1. Fear never goes away as long as you're growing and pushing into new territory. Truth 2. Actually doing the thing you fear is the only way to get rid of the fear of doing it. Truth 3. Action builds self-esteem. You have to go out and do it to feel better about yourself, not the other way around. Truth 4, everyone else is afraid too. Even the most successful people you admire, they are actively pushing through terror. And truth 5, which is huge,
Pushing through fear is actually far less frightening than living with that low-grade underlying dread that comes from feeling helpless. All right, Section 3, the pain to power shift, transforming your mindset. Since we've established that everybody feels fear, the real issue isn't the fear itself. The real issue is the internal framework of how we hold that fear. When we hold fear from a position of pain, we experience helplessness, depression, and total paralysis. The fear is completely running the show. But holding fear from a position of power, that means choice, energy, and action. You still have the fear, for sure, but it becomes irrelevant because you're operating from a place of deep inner strength. One of the absolute fastest ways to move from pain to power is by changing the literal words that come out of your mouth. Just simple semantic shifts in our everyday vocabulary can psychologically drag us right out of the victim role. For instance, instead of saying I can't, which screams helplessness, try saying I won't. That's an active choice. Instead of the guilt-tripping I should, say I could. Stop calling things a problem and start calling them an opportunity. Swap out the weak I hope for the confident I know. And instead of declaring a situation is terrible, reframe it. It's a learning experience. So why does this simple vocabulary shift matter so much? Because your subconscious only believes what it hears, not what is actually true. Your mental computer registers weak language every single time you use it, even if you're just being polite or making up a casual excuse to get out of a dinner party. Every time you say I can't, your brain basically logs the word weak. By actively repeating empowering phrases, you are literally rewiring your brain to stop seeing yourself as a helpless victim. Let's wrap this up with Section 4, expanding your comfort zone, daily action. We've talked about changing your mindset and changing your words, but to really build that I'll handle it muscle, you have to change your actions. We all have this original zone of comfort, that tiny little center where everything feels perfectly safe and easy. But right outside of that, that is where the magic happens. By taking small daily risks, you continually push the boundaries of what feels safe. As you push outward, your comfort zone literally expands. Things that used to terrify you eventually just become part of your normal everyday safe zone. So let's take this from theory into daily practice. Here is your step-by-step call to action. Step 1, identify one small daily risk. It doesn't have to be wild, like jumping out of an airplane. It could just be sending an intimidating email or finally asking for what you want. Step 2, visualize yourself doing it, clearly, in your mind's eye. And step 3, when you feel that inevitable hesitation creep in, push through it immediately. Don't wait around for the fear to fade. Consciously stretch those capabilities so you systematically become more powerful. I want to leave you with this final, provocative question. What risk will you take today? You have the blueprint now. You know the fear isn't going to go away until you act, and you know that at the bottom of it all, you really can handle whatever happens. So please, don't let another day slip away in the paralysis of that when-then trap. Step into your power, feel the fear, and do it anyway.